What do you see as the biggest factor that contributes to students completing college successfully?
I think the most critical thing is engagement in the classroom. And if a student and an instructor don't connect, then there's other ways of being successful. But I think that's the number one thing that motivates a student to be successful.
Because they believe in their capacity to succeed, because they know the rules, because they know what the expectations are. They understand that they are free to choose their actions, but they're not free to choose the consequences of those actions. And so they are not only held accountable for their choices, that they're rewarded for those one way or another. There's a consequence.
Well, I mean, obviously, what's happened to them with their parents and their previous educational experiences plays a huge role.
One is a profound curiosity where they like puzzles and they want to solve the puzzle, and so they'll do whatever it takes to be able to solve that.
Well, number one is they need to have access to the learning materials. So they've got to be able to have their books or have access to borrowing books so they can do their homework and get the information outside of class. And they also need to be in class. Attendance is really important too.
Number one, I think is the thing that makes you persistent, some sort of drive, some kind of sense that I want to be here, I want to accomplish, I want to make something happen, or I have something that I feel like I need to accomplish. I think that's pretty important. A lot of college life is just dependent on you making it happen. I mean, there's only so much that a professor or the institution itself can do to help you. We can set it up and do maybe even a better job of setting up an environment, but ultimately it comes down to the student having this internal mechanism or thing that says, I want to, I am determined to. So I think that's probably preeminent among a list of things.
What are some traits or skills that students already come to college with that make them successful?
One is probably um, how well they can negotiate and navigate self confidence, being motivated without putting too much pressure on themselves. Some of my students who really struggle the most are perfectionists, and they're very capable, but they put so much pressure on themselves. So a few people don't put enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't have a completely clear answer in my own mind of how each of us as individuals walks that fine line in our own lives, between believing in ourselves and believing that we're worthy and believing that we can do good work, and at the same time being self-aware and humble and aware of all we don't know and how much better it could be, and all those kind of variables.
Then I arrive at this place where I believe that I have the capacity to be successful. And if I believe that Bandura, self-efficacy, is good, that it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy, it's a reality. If I believe it's true and I act like it's true, it becomes true. That as-if principle.
It's the people who are persistent and the people who persist in studying or in doing or persist in accomplishing. Those are the ones that you find success with.
I would put, that commitment to learning would be one of those top 5.
Mhm.
If you don't want to learn, chances are you won't be real successful. If so, the want, the hunger to be here, be a student, want to learn.
Grit and determination, they've already emerged. You can't do anything to me.
So there's a couple things there, and so a big one is a work ethic. And if you have a decent work ethic and don't mind putting in the time and the energy to actually do the work, then you're in reasonable shape.
Having that kind of almost like a work ethic, like I'm going to put aside time to do homework, and I'm going to, prioritize, and having that kind of mindset coming into college sets students up for success, where they know I'm going to make this commitment to spend the 2 to 3 hours a week, typically, to just do homework, for every hour of coursework that they take. So if somebody's taking, 4 classes or 5 classes, then, they're spending 15 hours a week doing homework, minimally. And so if there's not that kind of drive and that study ethic, I guess, that certainly situates people to succeed.
I think the biggest thing is, like, do you have an open mind? Are you willing to engage ideas? Are you willing to think and to listen and to participate and to read critically whatever articles we're working on? So in terms of the cognitive content, you don't have to be a genius to get an A at all. You have to try hard, and you have to bring that attitude as much as you can.
I think motivation, and one of the things that I think is huge is curiosity. The willingness to be open-minded to trying new things and new experiences. I ask my seniors when they graduate, I say, why did you stay when others left? And they say, in their opinion, they like it here. They learn to adapt. They learn to adjust. They're open-minded. And I believe that's true. I see the students that are able to try this new experience of living in a small town and being in the country, and by the time they graduate, they've learned to really love it here, and that they are homesick when they leave. And so they have learned to adapt, and how that is a huge thing in their education, and not only helps them here, but helps them in their new careers, because every time you have a new job or new experience in your life, you have to adjust. And so the more opportunities you have to develop that in your life, then the better you get at it. And students that come with that open-minded attitude that, hey, this is going to be a new experience, I'm willing to change, they're much more successful.
And so it still comes back to people that love puzzles.
Mhm.
And, the puzzles can be a multitude of things. It's like cancer is a huge puzzle right now.
Right.
And someday somebody will figure out the key pieces of that puzzle, and we'll get better cures and like. But having, just an insane curiosity is really important, and just wanting to know why and wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And so I've had kids that are freaky smart, but they're not very applied, and they're not very driven. So I tell people I'd rather have a really strong B student who's really curious and they're passionate, versus somebody who's just really smart and they could care less about what they're learning. They just want to go take their MCAT, or they want to get into med school, but that's the only thing they see.
Certain kinds of skills are really necessary. Capability of reading, at a particular level. Capability of critical thinking at a particular level. Those are 2 other really important elements that go along with this drive.
Part of it would be economic status. If you've had, again, access. I've read quite a bit of literature that talks about how the class that you're from, your economic status, will trump any racial or gender issues that may interfere with your success. And I have found that to be pretty true. That it matters less about where you come from as far as your ethnicity or whatever orientation you have, as it does what kind of access you've had to resources. And so you've got people that come with experience being taught how to be really good writers and communicators, and a real good sense of self-efficacy, and they are confident and know they can succeed. That's a whole different ball game than somebody that comes from a life experience that has continually told them you're not good enough.
It's a matter of the application. It's a matter of we're always talking about this transforming experience and learning how to be good critical thinkers and problem solvers.
I'm thinking of Gardner's traits, Gardner's 8 intelligences, where things like interpersonal, and these are more like skills, but he says these are traits. These are the people who can relate to other pretty well and other people pretty well. And they're also skills that you can learn involved in human relations.
So I tell the students when we're trying to recruit them that there are things that you learn on the playing field, that there are things that you learn in student government and student life, be it, as an HP, as a GSD president, that you don't learn in the classroom. And so I think that also helps with success, where you, in those arenas, I think you do a lot more with learning how to work with people. And so that's another key piece. But I think it's really helped when we've had our students go to interview for med school and dental school, graduate school, that they can bring in that other piece, that they have people skills. And so I think that's also important.
And the people who come here and they've had ACE, they come to us with 30 hours of ACE credit and they're 4.0 and they got a 35 ACT, we fail them as well, because they've never really known challenge, and we aren't going to challenge them. We just keep saying, oh man, you're good, you're good, you're good. I think it's about challenge. I think it's about getting them to say what's inside of you, and just sitting there and looking at them and say, I don't believe you, and keep asking what's inside. I don't believe you, and I make them say it and say it and say it until, okay, I believe you. Now go act. Go act on that belief.
Programs like that who are ridiculously smart, but they have no motivation, and so they flounder in school and don't do well, because as soon as they hit their first big challenge, they just don't know how to handle it, because high school's been a cakewalk. They haven't had to study much, and all of a sudden they're now thrown into like my OChem class, and they just have a horrible time because they don't know how to study and they don't know how to actually do the work so that they can learn the material.
That they believe in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they don't, because somebody who believes too much isn't open to learning. They believe in their capacity to learn, and they're open to somebody stretching them. So there's a kind of resilience, and no matter. So if we talk about the poorest of the poor coming, that there is this. They believe they're worth it, and so there's a kind of grit or heart. They need to be able to speak, and they need to be able to ask for help, and they need to find their own voice. And I think that's an evolutionary process, but I also think it's facilitated in the classroom. They want answers, and they think that you're there to give them the answers so they can move on to the next class and get more answers, and so they can take the test. And for me, it's really about the number one trait is that they know who they are. That they don't know who they are, but that's what they want to know more than anything else. Because no 18-year-old knows who he is. No 22-year-old knows who he is. No 57-year-old knows who she is. But it's what gets us out of bed every morning. Because today, I'm going to have an experience that's going to help me understand who I am. And it's going to give me the power and permission to act on what I believe. It's about willingness. It's about grit. It's about seeking support. It's about being social. I mean, they have to be social. They have to be driven.